Okay, hi everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but I think we're all good now. If you have any issues, just type them in so that we know about them. My name is Jennifer. I'm one of the admissions people, along with Ibu Pancha. So we're the people who will answer your emails and process applications as they come in. Just so you know, I want to give you a quick bit of information about admissions before we get started with our lovely parents. Um, so this week is the deadline for applications for August admissions. If you can get your application started this week and then get everything finalized by the end of next week, then we can still consider all of those applications in the first round of admissions. So we will be notifying applicants of admissions in mid-April. Some will come before then if we can, but that's when we know for sure who among our current families will be returning next year. If you get in your application later than that, it's okay. We can still process applications late, but just so you know, those are considered on a rolling basis. So as spaces become available, we can admit students. But that first round is happening right now, so make sure to get your applications in as soon as you can. Okay, so I just want to introduce, first, Ibu Pancha, did I forget anything about that?
I think you already covered everything, Bu.
Okay.
So yeah, well, we still open opportunity for you to submit application. As Ibu Jane said, that we still can process late application, but it's based on rolling basis review. But everyone are welcome to still apply.
Yeah, and all the information you need is on our website, including information about applying to Green School English. This is a program for beginner English speakers ages 6 to 11. So children who are that age would need to be at an intermediate level of English to apply. So we've opened up this new program, Green School English, that's available for beginning English learners ages 6 to 11. So you can apply for both of those online, and the applications are on the website. Okay. So first, let me introduce two of our amazing parents, Guy and Kendall. And I'll let you guys talk about your backgrounds at Green School, and then we'll get started with questions.
All right. Kendall, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kendall. I'm from Australia, and I have been at Green School and in Bali for almost 5 years. And I have two daughters here. They started in kindy and grade 4, and they are now in grade 4 and grade 8. So, yeah, really looking forward to answering all the questions being of help to you guys. So, it's a big decision and it's a really exciting decision. So,
Right. I'm Guy from the Netherlands. I have a 8-year-old here in 3rd grade, 2nd year in Bali, and happy to answer any questions that I can.
Great. Okay, so while we wait for the questions to come in, could you guys talk a little bit about GSPA and what you do there?
Well, now it's my turn to hand over to Guy, because Guy is the chair of the GSPA. The GSPA is the Green School Parents Association.
Yes, the Green School Parents Association, a lovely organization that is here to energize the parent community. And we hold meetings, we do fundraisers, we organize events, talks, we just make sure that parents who are willing to help out within the community can have a place where they can get all the information they need, that they have a place to go to get to get acquainted with everything that happens in and around Green School. So that is what the Green School Parents Organization is for, amongst others. Kendall here is for the...
we do fundraising as well. We do fundraising for outside, for either we fundraise for a different range of things, including facilities at the school or projects that are happening in and around the school area, the village of Green School. That fundraising is usually in the form of a great big party at least once a year.
Happening soon.
Happening soon. And there, we have about 5 or 6 different roles on the GSPA. As I mentioned, Dee is the chair, currently the chair. I work on a class ambassador program, which means that we have representatives from each grade and each class within each grade to help support the parents, the communication between the parents and the teachers. And we have the fundraising committee and communications team. And it's just a really lively and connected group of parents who volunteer their time to really enhance the school experience here.
Yep. And anybody who comes here as a parent is welcome to volunteer also and to add to this team of really fun. I mean, it was an interesting experience, right?
It's an amazing experience.
It's an amazing experience. Lots of things that we hadn't expected and things that we had expected didn't happen. So it was really a growing learning experience. And I'll be happy to welcome you when you get here.
And I guess there's, it is a really incredible community because we have people obviously from all over the world who come to Green School, and people at varying stages of their lives. So we have people who are on sabbaticals from work. We have people who are, international business owners, have online businesses. Lots of people studying yoga and healing. So it's we've got a really large cross-section of incredible people from all over the world. I was just wondering, are there any specific questions?
There are.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions coming in. Okay, so is it easy to find houses to rent near the school?
It depends what near the school is. So traditionally, most people live in one of 3 main areas. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either right around the school, or it's in the Ubud area, or it's more down south in the Canggu area. And in all 3 areas, from my experience, it's relatively easy to find a home. But again, in Bali, it's sometimes things are not what they seem. And so I would say that it's relatively easy to find something, but to find something suitable will take some time. And also be mindful that the prices are varying tremendously and also are on the rise. That's my experience.
Yeah, and I would say, to your point of taking your time, I think it's, I'd really advise to come to the island first and book some sort of short-term accommodation, whether it be through Airbnb or through the network that we have here at Green School. We have a Facebook page, which is a Green School housing Facebook page. And often before you arrive, some current families are overseas. So we often have our homes available for you to share, for you to feel out different areas and just get a sense of the different areas and different styles of living. Because the houses here are a little different. No matter where you're from in the world, they are different to what you're probably used to.
Yep.
But yeah, as far as I think there are an abundance of houses available. Not always exactly what you might have in mind, but there's a lot of short-term accommodation as well. So you never have to feel worried about having somewhere to base yourself, even if it's only for a short time.
Yeah, that's an important point. A lot of parents think that they need to arrange housing before they arrive on island, and you really don't need to. There are lots and lots of housing options here, and it's probably better to come here, try visiting different areas, stay, maybe arrange a place for 2 weeks or a month. Lots and lots of short-term accommodations are available as well as long-term. So there's no real pressure to do that until once you get here, you can take your time and handle it from here. Somebody asked about house sitting. That could be a possibility. Once you're admitted to Green School, you can be added to our Green School families Facebook page and the Green School housing page as well, and that would be a good place to post about that and ask. It's not something that the school arranges. Those pages are managed by our parents, so we can't recommend that's those sorts of arrangements. But that's a way to connect with current families.
Well, Karen here manages at this moment the housing page. Do you have something to add to this? Oh, you need the mic.
Sorry, I have to share.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. Sorry. Um, yeah, there's many options on the housing group, and families are already advertising availability for next year. So it's always a really good idea if you can to get into a property that a previous Green School family has lived in, because they've ironed out many of the issues, and essentially it comes with a recommendation. In respect of house sitting, the options there tend to end. A lot of the posts that we've got in there at the minute, the house sitting ends when school recommences. So lots of options for sitting and looking after pets while families are away. But you'll find that once school recommences, you'll need to have arranged something yourself. And the other thing just to keep in mind, as Kendall alluded to, is that you can spend months and months looking for the perfect house, and if you're only here for a 12-month period or a short-term period, you find that dominates the first couple of months of being here as well. So coming early is a good idea, just because there's so many activities that are happening within the school in those first few weeks. If you're spending all of your time house hunting and not engaging in those activities, it's a different experience when you start.
Thanks, Karen.
I saw a question about the Facebook page, when they can join.
Yep. So when
So now for housing.
right. So when your child is admitted to Green School, then you can join the Green School Parents Facebook page and the housing page. Okay. There's a question: if you live in the further areas, can the kids take a bus to school? We have several bio buses that pick up in three. Well, actually, it's 4 areas right now. So I think 2 parts of Ubud and 1 area in Canggu, and then another in Sanur. So those are the 3 locations aside from the immediate area of Green School, where the majority of families live. And we do have a bio bus fueled by biodiesel. That was a student project many years ago that has really taken off and is now providing transportation for everybody.
And just on that transport note as well, there are a lot of families who carpool, so they'll have a private driver, and most of the cars have 7 seats. So often a couple of families will get together and share the cost, and and drive together. So
That's a great question. Another one following up around where to live. We covered that, but work permits and family visas. Working here can be complicated. I don't want to pretend otherwise. Um, I wouldn't recommend coming here expecting to find a job unless you're Indonesian. It's the government puts pretty strict restrictions on that, and we'd recommend getting in touch with the Indonesian embassy in your country regarding visas, or ask us for a referral to a legal company here who can help with visa information. Okay.
So there is a company that works with Green School for all visa-related affairs.
Right. They're
Ganesha.
separate,
Yeah.
a separate entity, but they have an office here on campus just for convenience, since they help us with all of our staff, our faculty, and a lot of Green School families use them as well.
Mm.
All right. Okay. A lot of these are. We'll come back to the ones about school. We'll stick with the ones for the parents if we can right now. All right. Housing resources, Airbnb, Booking.com. I mean, really, those are fine when you're looking for short-term accommodation. They're just there's an abundance of of short-term accommodation. So the regular routes that you would use for booking something will work fine. Again, the Green School family housing page would be a good resource.
And once you're on island, word of mouth goes then from that network, you will find so many people who have something or know something. And from my experience, that really was a great help.
Mhm.
And we also have WhatsApp groups as well. So, for example, I live in the Canggu area, and I'm part of a Green School Canggu WhatsApp group. It's not anything to do with the school. It's totally separate, set up by a couple of parents, and we share all sorts of information. Yeah, where can I buy corn flour? Where can I buy a wetsuit? I need to find a 4-bedroom house. Yeah, so we've got that resource as well that you can very quickly get tapped into.
Okay. There's a question about detailed guides written by past or current parents. That's something that we create every year with our amazing parent volunteers. We have one for this current year that we can share with you, and then we'll be updating the guide, the Living in Bali guide, within the next month or two. Okay. And you guys, if you can see those questions, you're welcome to.
Is it possible to live walking distance from the school? Yes, it is. There we have the Green Village, and a couple of other houses. I think there used to be one house other than the Green Village here within walking distance, but there are quite a few that are popping up now.
And there's a new eco village being built now and getting finalized soon. So there's a lot of movement on that front.
Yeah, so there are many more options than there were a few years ago around the school.
And we even have a nice Korean restaurant now.
And
very
Turkish.
nice food and Turkish. So things are also popping up in the neighborhood because before there was not much besides the local white room. So that's also nice to have some alternatives for food options.
Great, yeah. And then this is something that any parent can tell you about is after school activities, which each block there's a new set of activities offered. And parents, can you guys talk about some examples of ones that your kids have done?
There are almost too many to choose from.
Yeah.
And it's
Wonderful.
there's so many options. And so not only on campus but off campus, there are a lot of different activities available. My children have done art-related after-school activities. There are some sport-related ones. There are I can't think of anything quite specific.
And one of the great things about the after-school activities is that they're not just for kids; they're for families and parents and siblings as well. So,
yeah. I have a great experience with the after-school activities related to the school, and he does it 3 days a week and loves every moment of it. So, from engineering to sports to art to dance to crafts, anything. As Kendall said, there's so much to choose from. Lists and lists.
Okay. It's a question about cycling to school, which is allowed. We would depend on parents to enforce wearing helmets. And we do have plenty of families who do cycle to school. So I wouldn't recommend it for young children if you're very far from campus, because there definitely is traffic in some areas. But that's something you can figure out when you get here, whether it's safe or not, depending on where you live.
Well, if you live in Canggu, it's probably a no-go. And if you live in Ubud, you probably could, but not every day. And if you live near school, of course, it's a few minutes bike ride.
Yeah.
And Canggu is way uphill in the morning, so it's a long drive, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's a question about the bridge. Maybe somebody can talk about what the bridge is.
Well, apart from the question is, apart from the bridge, are there any other co-working spaces in the area? So formal co-working spaces around the school, I'd say no, but in Ubud and Canggu, there are many. Yeah, there are many, but they're kind of between 15 to 30 minutes away from the school. But the bridge is great. It's got it's got great internet, a really great community there. We have the bridge has talks practically every day by incredible people. Some of them are, some of them are from the school community. Some of them, many of them are people who are visiting Bali. We had Alexandra Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau's granddaughter, just recently. So many names we could drop. So not only as a co-working space, but a space to provide just ongoing information, inspiration, talks. As Karen said earlier, the activities at Green School aren't just for the kids. I think the parents get just as much, if not more, out of this experience that as the children do. Yeah. Did you want to, that was my just talk about the bridge?
It's a wonderful place to connect, to get to learn other parents. And, you know, from my experience, the first year is a time when you are more linked to the bridge, maybe, and then maybe the second year after less. But that is up to anyone's own choice, of course. But a wonderful place to connect.
Park yourself for a few hours if you have work that you need to do.
Share and go.
It's great. Collaborate. Businesses have been born there.
Oh, yes.
So the question about visas has come up a couple of times, and this one's about, can you elaborate on the visa requirements? Yes, kids get an education visa, and that's referred to as a KITAS. So that's handled through the legal department at school or with your own agent. So the school provides all of the documentation, the support letters to enable that. So you can, like I say, either use your own agent or use the one at school. We tend to find that using the one at school, you pay a little bit more, but the process is fairly seamless, which is not always the case when you use private agents. In respect of parents, there's no system in Indonesia that supports family visas in the same way as what you might see in other countries. So parents are essentially on their own in respect to visas. The legal office here will provide assistance, but it's not in any way linked to the visa of the children. So many of us are on business visas, and that's a multi-entry visa. The school can potentially help with that. Often families will come in on tourist visas, which only gives you 30 to 60 days. And the specific question was about visa runs. Yes, we're all guilty of doing them, and they're not every 6 months. Unfortunately, they're every 60 days. So we're all kind of on an endless mission, I guess, to find a way to minimise the amount of runs that we need to do and minimise our footprint in that. But just to acknowledge, it is quite difficult in Indonesia. But talk to your own embassy before you leave, or talk to the legal office here in respect to the children.
We have a few questions about our curriculum and so forth. One is about teaching Spanish. It's a question that comes up often about our language program. So English is our primary language of instruction. We also teach Bahasa Indonesia throughout the school. So we have Indonesian teachers here explicitly teaching Bahasa Indonesia. For students in middle and high school, if they have fulfilled their Bahasa Indonesia requirements, then they have the option of learning Spanish or French. And then since we have families from all over the world, many of them living away from their home countries for extended periods of time, occasionally parents will get together and form, say a Dutch club or a Japanese club or whatever. And it's just a way for students to get together informally and speak their home language. There are also tutors available on island that parents can arrange privately.
And those would include all languages. From my experience, my kid had a Dutch tutor in Canggu, and that was perfect and really well organized. So I'm sure that'll be for many other languages as well.
Yeah, we have families from over 40 different countries. So obviously we have a very rich linguistic culture here as well.
See something on homework?
Homework.
Well, it's not our view, but I feel the kids, at least in primary and middle school, don't get a lot of homework. I don't know how it is in high school, but they do get work to do. Sorry? Different a lot?
No, it depends on the subject that you're doing, but certainly the policy that you're referring to is not strictly reflected in high school because there are homework requirements there.
So there are homework, So that's important too.
In primary and middle school, it's most homework is considered optional. So teachers in primary will send home a menu of options for homework, but parents here tend to have varying opinions about the value of homework. And so this is a very busy campus. Students are working hard all day. They're moving around. They're often exhausted by the end of the day, especially if they're doing it's hot, especially if they're doing after school activities. And the feedback over time has been that additional homework is just more than their kids can handle. So we provide those options for families that feel that it works for them, but we don't require it, except in high school. High school is very different. We it's more in line with a traditional high school in the sense that there are tests, assignments, homework, so forth. We'll have actually our head of high school joining us for a webinar in about 2 weeks. So stay posted for that if you have specific questions about high school. And also next week, our head of learning will be joining us to do a general information session about our learning program.
Question on mobile phone policy. It's a 0 mobile phones on campus, right? For anyone except for the adults.
Yeah, so the children are, any children who do have a phone, they are invited to, well, it's a school rule that they're invited to hand their phone in at the beginning of the school day, and then they can pick it up at the end of the school day. And the reason that a lot of children do have a phone is because a lot of children do travel either on the bus or with a driver. So it's more about logistics, so arranging things at the beginning and at the end of the day. But yes, 0 phones during school hours.
There's a question about duration of enrollment. We require a minimum of 1 year enrollment for students age 6 and above. For earlier students, we do allow single semester enrollments. And there's a question about price. That information is all on our website. I don't have those figures memorized. Let's see. Maybe we can talk now about the healthcare system in light of the coronavirus concerns. But of course, healthcare is a concern all year. So parents, maybe you can offer your experience with that.
I might be in the minority, but well, I'm also probably blessed that I haven't had to use the system here very often. I mean, my youngest did fall over and split her chin open once, and she's got a very neat little scar. She had 8 stitches. So there are good hospitals here, well, what else can we say?
Well,
I mean, private health
basic,
insurance,
basic.
good.
If you compare it to
Yeah.
let's say Europe or
Australia.
but very efficient for the cuts, for the things. But if you want to have complex, if there are really complex issues, oftentimes the advice is maybe to look off island,
To go to Singapore or Australia or even Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah. So
But I've had so the
yeah.
Green School has its own brand new ambulance since about a month, I believe.
Yeah.
My kid drove in it once. He was the second passenger.
Yes.
And that was really well organized and so efficient. And he went to a little clinic in Ubud and he was treated perfectly. So, for those things, perfectly all right, I guess. But be mindful as to, what you expect and what you're getting.
It's certainly not a Western system, is it? Yeah. And I think the important thing is to ensure that you have adequate insurance should the worst happen, and really consider your options as to whether you're looking at expat health insurance versus travel insurance, and what your repatriation options are under your plans as well. The question about is that under the student visa is healthcare covered? No, it's not. And in fact, any healthcare that you access here is usually payable in advance, and dependent on the insurance company's arrangements with the hospital, you may have to pay in advance and have it reimbursed later. So, so it's not the question about insurance is not something to take lightly, and you need to factor it into your costings and your plans before you come.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Do we have a list of travel insurance?
It depends on your country of origin as well,
Yep.
but also ask the question of your insurers about whether or not you are covered under a travel policy, particularly if your children have KITAS, which is a residency permit over here. So not all travel insurance policies will cover that. But World Nomads is one that comes up quite often because you can purchase that when you're already offshore. And I could give you a list for Australia, but that's going to be quite different to the US and quite different to Europe. So,
yeah, it involves a little bit of research. Again, the current parents can often help, but I'm assuming you'd want to organise that before you travel, and it's quite personal as well as to what your circumstances are, how often you're traveling off island, and as Karen said, visa situations, KITA situations.
See one about the laptop. Is that needed? Do you know from which
Yeah, so
age?
starting in middle school, grade 6, which is around age 11, we require students to have laptops, and that's something that they need to purchase, and it's their own personal laptop that they use in school. We do give instruction on responsible use of laptops and so forth, but it's also something that parents need to be responsible for and help their children learn to be responsible for.
Yep.
A lot of in middle school and high school, many of the assignments, for example, are online. Students are allowed to use the laptops to do certain projects, to type term papers and do research and so forth. And starting in middle school, they also have a Green School email account that we use for communications with teachers.
And there's a question there about can they enroll at the beginning of year 2021 for that calendar year?
Yeah. So our 2 times for enrollment are August and January. And we admit students at those 2 times. If you enroll in January, that's fine. A 1-year commitment would be January to December. Ivo Pancha, do you have anything to add about that?
Well, normally we're looking at application for 1 year ahead. So we are now still focusing for school year 21. If you're asking for August 2021, you can start application in around October, December. October, November is okay to start application submission, but we will start processing that around that end of the first semester of school year 2020.
There's a question about how our school is recognized by top universities globally. And we have had several students go to top universities around the world. About half of our students tend to go immediately into university, and about the other half tend to take a gap year or 2. Some of them are not university bound, and some are. Our high school is accredited by WASC, which is the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, which is a widely recognized accreditation around the world. We generate a high school transcript for all graduates, and we give grades in high school, which we don't do in the younger grades. So typically, these are all things that are recognized by universities. But I will say that my son graduated from Green School last year, and Karen, you can probably speak to this as well. Our curriculum is different from IB. It's because we're doing so much hands-on learning, project-based learning, service learning, work off campus, school trips. We can't realistically do it all. So if we're doing that, that comes at the expense of some of the more rigorous academic requirements that other schools would have. So our students are typically not spending a lot of time taking tests and studying for tests and so forth. They are definitely learning those basic skills, but the Green School experience is something different. And more universities, especially in the US, I would say, are recognizing the value of the type of education that we offer. We're not teaching to the test. Students can opt to take the SAT or ACT or all these other standardized tests off campus on their own time, and we do offer some support in preparing for that. But unlike other schools, that is really not our focus. We're trying to do something very different. And if you're interested in this, please join our webinar next week with Sal Gordon. He can can talk about that much more eloquently than I can. But generally, yes. However, if please do your homework. Don't expect that your child will automatically go to Harvard if they attend green school. It is possible, but it's it is a different type of school.
There has been an Ivy League, someone who.
Yeah.
But doesn't green school also offer the possibility to follow a parallel IB trajectory, or is that not
We
at the
don't.
moment? No. Okay.
No. We do have some students who have on their own done some additional tutoring and testing, and that's perfectly fine, but that's not part of our curriculum.
It is acknowledged as an area where we have some development work to do, and there are activities happening actually within the school to support that. So the school's currently recruiting a pathways officer to look specifically at university pathways throughout all of the education systems across the world. We have university fairs here, so the universities will come to us and showcase their products. But I think it's fair to say at this stage there's no formal pathways into a specific university, and it does depend on the country as well. So Australia has a score-based system, and unless you take and achieve a score, then your university pathways are limited. The US is not like that. It's more of a portfolio-based approach, and they're actually approaching green school and approaching our kids and wanting them to enrol. So it does depend on the policies of your home country as well. But at the end of the day, as you said, Jan, we're teaching our system of education is unique. We're teaching a set of skills that is not being taught in mainstream education and in those mainstream pathways. So we need to find a way of blending and managing that so that our kids' interests are looked after, and that work's being done as we speak.
Great. We're running a little short of time, so let's get to this question about activities for parents to participate in on a day-to-day or weekly basis.
Too many.
Well, there are ample options.
Do not be concerned about filling your time. Yeah, there are so many options. You can take part in a full rice cycle. Work with local farmers. As I mentioned before, there are almost every day there's at least one incredible talk or workshop happening at the bridge or somewhere, via the school community. Every day I've got an invitation in my WhatsApp group, for some sort of retreat or workshop. I don't know if you'd like to add anything else, but it's almost too much.
You can go cycling, you can go
Yeah.
sports activities. There's a group of dads that form a motorbike club. So yeah,
Football clubs, men's circles, women's circles, meditation, yoga. It's an abundance.
One of the amazing things is that green school is not just a community of learners being children, where the adults and parents are really included in that community of learning. And if you happen to have spare time, there are teachers crying out for mentors and support and volunteers in all of the classrooms. And many parents will just come up with an idea and start an initiative themselves. So it's often a case of don't wait to be asked, to just get in and get your hands dirty and do something.
Yep.
There's a quick question there about the other community websites on Facebook. Many. You can just type in, if you're looking on Facebook, go to the search bar and type in Bali community or Canggu community or Ubud community, different green school community pages as well. So there's many different places to look for information outside of green school and outside of the green school Facebook pages. Any other questions?
There were a couple questions about safety. I'm not seeing them now, but
just there's one there. So there are a couple of questions. One was, do you feel safe in Bali? Another one regarding safety, what kind of measures can we teach our children? I came to Bali as a single mum, and I feel safer here than I do in parts of Australia. And in respect to the children, I think the risk assessment that you do with your kids is a little bit different. Certainly, there's a huge aspect of safety with the community, but there are also things that you can do to help increase the level of support that you have. So making sure that you're connecting with other parents, making sure that you've got somebody that you can ring if you need. And one of the things that will go a long way towards increasing your feeling of safety is making sure that your kids are engaging in their Bahasa study as well. And same for parents, trying to to learn the language very quickly, because that obviously helps with resilience and strategies if you need support within your local community. But as a general rule, I would have to say I feel totally safe here, and
I do
safer
too.
than I do in parts of Australia.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, I agree. I'm from the U.S. and I feel very safe living here. Now you do have to take the regular precautions if you're in a tourist area. You want to not leave your handbag lying around or whatever. But otherwise, it's very very safe. There's very little crime on the island and in Indonesia in general, and people are very kind and welcoming and just make it a nice place to live.
Last on Ubud versus Canggu.
Canggu,
Yeah.
Ubud, Canggu,
Canggu.
Canggu's where the surf
So
is.
it's about 60 in Canggu, 40% around Ubud, or
Possibly.
no, like 60, 30, and 10 around schools.
A few in
something like that?
Sanur as well. A few in Sanur. If you like stand-up paddleboarding.
A lot of the older kids gravitate towards Canggu because that's social networks become a little bit different as you get older.
Yeah.
Ubud's inland, Canggu's the beach. It's like a little bit further to travel. I feel a different vibe in Canggu in terms of families and communities that I did when I lived in Ubud, but it varies so much from year to year, and it really just is a case of find a place that you feel comfortable, and the community will support you no matter where you are. And
And you
there's
can move
always a
around.
family community. Exactly.
1 year you
6
can
months
try
in one,
Canggu,
yeah.
6 months
Yeah.
here, 6 months there. It's so flexible, and it's really nice to see different parts. And then you can, if you plan to stay longer, you ground somewhere where you feel comfortable.
Good point. Yeah, and there are houses in between those places as
Yep,
well.
so
If
many.
it could be a little more isolated in the sense that there's not a coffee shop next door or whatever,
Or
but
supermarket.
or supermarket. um, so if you want access to those kind of amenities, like French or Italian restaurants or whatever, then you would want to be in one of those main urban areas. But if you want peace and quiet, then somewhere in between those would be preferable.
And so how do we commute to school? So parents drive their kids with cars, with motorbikes. There are drivers that drive their kids. And then there's the bio bus. And then there's a few people that live nearby that walk and take the bicycle. So completely up to the parent's own feeling of security, driving him or herself or taking a motorbike versus a car. So Kendall drives a car. I think, Karen, you drive a car as well?
But
I
yeah,
drive a motorbike.
motorbike and
you
car.
motorbike, yeah.
Yeah, both. Yeah, I love it. Love driving here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would recommend if you're new to Bali or new to Southeast Asia, and you've not driven a scooter in in Asian traffic, then I highly recommend holding off on that and actually holding off on driving in general. Maybe hiring a car and driver for at least the first couple of months until you get settled and feel adjusted,
Or
just
don't.
go.
or don't.
Or just jump on that
It's
scooter
all an
and figure it out.
adventure. Again, totally depends on your personality and
Yeah.
what you want to experience. But of course, safety first, and we don't want to be stupid because there is a lot more traffic these days on the island, and there is a different flow to the traffic, and a lot of the time, Westerners or people who haven't been in Southeast Asia before just don't understand that, so it can take a while to get used to that. Do we have much more time, or there's
We're
a few more questions?
Kind of out of
yeah.
time, and unfortunately,
I saw a question on budget accommodation. There is, but you don't have a lot of things to choose from, right? So there is a lot of budget accommodation but don't expect any standards that you would otherwise maybe compare to as it is at home.
yeah, I think it depends on your expectations. I know a lot of teachers in particular who live international teachers who live in local housing, which is much more affordable. You're not going to have a pool. You're not going to have a lot of the amenities that you would have in more expensive villas. But there is a wide range of housing, and if you're budget minded, there are plenty of beautiful, safe, very nice options available.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people come here wanting to have a more luxurious. Well, it could go either way. Either people want to simplify and come and have a simpler experience, and which is wonderful and eco-friendly.
Or you splurge all the way.
Or some people
Splurge on the
save up
5-bedroom villa
yes,
on an
and
acre of land
splurge.
with a lap pool.
Right, because it's relatively affordable. Many of us live in accommodations here that we could never, never, never in a million years afford in our home countries. So huge range of housing options
Shall we take
available.
one more question?
Do you
I can see people asking about the cost of drivers and cars and housing, and it does vary quite a lot depending on whether, well, the housing varies hugely, as Jennifer just pointed to, and also with drivers, it depends if you own or rent the car, or the driver, it's a driver and car, can you answer that, Karen?
Yeah, I'd be budgeting maybe 3 to 3.5 million for a driver, 3.5 million this per month, 3.5 million to 4 million for a car.
So that's approximately 500 Australian dollars.
It's about 800 Australian. I think that's probably 500 US.
US,
close to 500 US. And household staff are generally around 3 to 3.5 million, probably a little bit more now.
But often they are included in the rent. Sometimes yes, sometimes
yeah,
not.
potentially. Yeah.
But
yeah.
so yeah, and the rent, it can start at 100 million, so about 6,000 US dollars, and it can go up to 5,000-6,000 a month. I've even heard. So you know, everything in between is there. But starting at 100 mil, I think.
That would be a local property.
Very, very low budget.
Very local.
Very low budget. And you know, if you're adventurous, you can do a bit of a renovation on something that's many families have done that.
But on
found
average,
something budget.
You would say what, 1,500 US to 2,500 US, or is that
a month?
No, a year. Oh yeah, a month. I mean, yeah. 1,500 US dollars a month is to 2,500. That's what people pay on average.
Yeah,
I'd say for a larger, more like a larger villa, but for something more modest would be quite a bit less.
Starting at 6,000-7,000.
Yeah, really varied.
Really varied. A huge range. Yeah.
And we all live in kind of different, kind of similar circumstances, I guess. The four of us. I'm not sure on your housing, Pancha, but local, yeah.
Local's the way to go if you want to save money, for sure.
Will we be getting a copy of this webinar? I believe it's recorded.
Yeah, it'll be recorded and edited. If you registered for this through email, or even if you didn't actually, you'll be getting an email from us next week or soon that will have this recording on it, as well as information about the next live Q&A. So look for that.
Yep.
And we're out of time.
We don't know when the visits will start again.
All right. So our tours have shut down temporarily due to just an excess
Safety.
of caution due to the coronavirus concerns.
Yep.
We can still meet with individual families. Admissions can. We can't do the tour, but we can sit down and talk with you, or we can schedule a Skype call or whatever, or answer emails. So just get in touch with us. admissions@greenschool.org. I'll look through this and try to answer some questions directly here when we close the recording. But if your question wasn't answered, just email us and we'll do our best. All right. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.